Hello, everyone. It's Sonny McDonald here. And as you know, the team and I at Leadership HQ and the Outstanding Leadership Awards are so committed and passionate about building a world of great, compassionate, and courageous and inclusive leaders and leadership. And I have been so excited all week to actually have an incredible conversation with our Outstanding Leadership Awards winner. She was a finalist, and she was a great finalist, which we loved working through in the past year during the awards. But then to see her on stage as a winner, and also the overall winner of the 2022 Outstanding Leadership Awards, just was so wonderful to see her incredible leadership. So I'm going to introduce the amazing adjacent, she's got a few titles here. Adjacent Professor Kylie Ward. She's the CEO at the Australian College of Nursing and the Australian College of Nursing Federation. However, she's also, and I love this, a policy reformer, humanitarian, visionary, nurse, for-purpose leader, equality warrior. I love all these. Adjacent professor, executive coach, mum, and transformation specialist. So welcome to the Leadership Lounge today, and congratulations on being our winner for the 2022 Outstanding Leadership Awards that we hosted only a couple of weeks ago. Hey, how are you today?
Sonia, to be on your virtual lounge is a huge honor. I watched you in awe that evening, but I still feel the tingles of excitement of that night. And Belinda, who was with me, that was such a special evening in my life. I will carry it with me forever. I'm very humbled. So it's a pleasure to be here.
It was an amazing evening. I have to admit, for some reason it's saying the video is not working, but that's okay. Maybe it's hopefully the video will work soon. But anyway, hopefully if you can just let us know if the video is not working, which video isn't working. Hopefully it's not from our end. Look, for us, it was many years of courage, of challenges, of ups and downs. It's been a dream of ours for many years, but to have 250 people in the room to champion and celebrate greatness and leadership, and just to see everyone, like for me, all the finalists win, like everyone in the room were winners. I think it was so, and there's so many people for weeks and weeks on end. We received so many messages and emails and calls just saying what an incredibly inspirational evening it was. And so many people reached out to me saying how wonderful it was to see all the finalists and winners, and to see you as the overall winner as well. But I've never seen so many people eat so many lollies in one evening. I think the lolly bar was a huge hit, but the speeches were a huge hit. The winner, anyway, it was just a wonderful evening. But and just seeing the photos of you when we announced you as a winner and seeing you on stage, wow, it was just wonderful.
You know what, there's so many things that I love, but being in the room with like-minded people, you're right, everyone's a winner and everybody contributes in such a significant way, but having like-minded people in a room creates its own energy, doesn't it? Because, you know, that being around other people that are like you, we don't always get that in our day jobs and in our work environments. And I think that just created such a beautiful energy in the evening. And I would say with that lolly table, there was a lot of inner child fulfillment there. We haven't been to a party for a while.
I think there was a bit of inner child there. I think even it had a number of people there helping us, and it got to a point where we were constantly restocking the lolly bar. A good note for next year's awards, which we're already started planning in 2023 to make sure the lolly bar is much bigger. But in terms of, obviously, leaders love lollies. What does leadership mean to you when you think about, and also like what you champion? Because you are just such a champion of leadership and compassion and empathy and courage. What does leadership mean to you?
You know, it's an interesting word, leadership, isn't it? because it really is popular this turn of the century. 100 years ago, we would have all been about management. And as leadership's, the term and the philosophy and the concept and the examples have come into play, and especially for women, where we weren't even really in the workforce in the same way 50 years ago, I think leadership itself, to me, a little bit different from being a leader. I think that people who call themselves a leader, I think that's for other people to judge whether we're leaders or not, and that's around followership. But leadership really is about, are you prepared to do what you have to do, not in a popular way, but in what is right, and what should be done in the best interests of the people that you're serving. And do it in a way that is respectful, inclusive, and dignified for all of those involved.
I really love that. It is doing what's right. I think that is such a powerful message around how we all have the opportunity to lead, because leadership isn't about a role or title. Leadership is, it's about action, it's about choice, it's about attitude. And I even through the pandemic and coming out now, I'm seeing a real movement, particularly around, we need greater leadership. We need more people to step up as leaders. We need more kindness and empathy in our leaders.
Yes. And certainly to move away from leadership as we would have known it of the past, that is militant, hierarchical, and controlling. Sonia, if you and I went and sat at a childcare centre or a playground, had a coffee and watched, you will see intrinsically skills of people stepping up or coordinating, or how other people follow people. And I think that fascination in human behaviour is, why do we want to follow someone? Why does someone inspire us? We all have people that inspire us. But if you are somebody who is inspiring others, what is your responsibility to step up and be the best that you can be for those that you have influence or impact on their livelihood and well-being?
Yeah, and it is. It's about how we can serve others. I think that's a huge one around leadership. So tell me a little bit about your journey. I'm really fascinated. Obviously, I was talking offline around stalking your LinkedIn and how wonderful seeing your career and journey. But tell me a little bit about your journey, and did you expect to be where you are today?
Oh my gosh, no, not at all. I've always been a member and a fellow of the Australian College of Nursing. I never thought I'd be an employee in that regard. But, sometimes it's easier to look back at the trajectory of your life and your career to see where you get to, rather than see what's next. So when I see all the pieces and the way that there are no coincidences of why I'm here, it makes sense. But along the way, I've been a single mum for 22 years. So, by the time I was 30, I was raising kids on my two sons on my own. You need money. So back at that time, it was around survival, finances, raising kids, coordinating, very much being a mum, safety, childcare. So I think as you grow, it's really important to go, what I would say for me is to go from survival to thriving. That was a conscious decision I made in my 40s. But I've always naturally aligned to management positions and have a real love of people. But how that would come about, I think the reason that I took on this position that I did nearly 7 years ago was because, having trained as a nurse and been part of the health system and the nursing profession, I really felt like that if every nurse knew and owned their power, that the world would just be a completely different place. Because you're talking 400,000 nurses in Australia, almost 90% female. If we really understood and commanded our worth, I think we would scare ourselves and everyone else. And so in coming back to a position like this, I wanted to create as many platforms and opportunities to enable the profession to be empowered and to get the platforms they deserve.
Have you seen, and I love the fact you're championing that, and I'm going to go back to, we've got a very similar kind of, similar to me 20 years ago. I became a full-time single parent and had to put a roof over our heads and money on the table. Yeah. But going back to, obviously, with, what you're doing and championing that like the nursing, the nurses in the nursing industry, right? And are you seeing there's been a shift in how the role nurses play now in community and society since this pandemic or during the pandemic? Have you seen any changes?
Oh, most certainly. And I've recently, just before we caught up at the awards, I'd travelled, spent 7 weeks overseas in the UK and USA, and I went and visited hospitals and health services, and particularly, those countries were heavily hit far more than we were with deaths and the demand on the system. And then did a course at Harvard. So it was really good for me to reflect, knowing what we've done here. But all around the world, nursing most certainly has been put in the spotlight in a way that we didn't expect and probably didn't want. The World Health Organization had announced that 2020 would be the year of the nurse and the year of the midwife. So we planned a year of celebration in honor of probably one of the oldest professions that women have been able to participate in modern times. And of course, by March 2020, that went in a very different direction with the announcement of the pandemic. So I think with that, I think every person around the globe has been affected in some way, obviously, by the pandemic. But I think what it did for each person was reflect on how important our health is. When you see prime ministers and leaders, and when you see health outcomes like a pandemic and that little virus cross all socio-economic groups, all social determinants of health, all geography, I think that there was a humbling factor that we really, like, how important is health versus the greed that the world was sort of following, and that health and the economy will never be separate again. The trillions of dollars, the war chest that has been put into us getting healthy, and the investment of those, whether that be in childcare, the supermarkets, the healthcare sector, the army that went out to fight for us during the pandemic has predominantly been female, and that is different from any other century, and we need to take stock of that.
That's incredible. I think it is that whole new appreciation of the frontline leader. I call them leaders because, those people that are our nurses, childcare, in our supermarkets, the truck drivers, there's people that kept health and economy going, right? And it was interesting before the pandemic, when I launched the Leadership Awards, people were saying to me, why are you doing these leadership awards? And I thought, we need greater role models. Like on social media, we're seeing examples, role models of social media, and it's all about what car I drive, or more around that kind of like how I look, or if there was any news or media around leadership or CEOs, it tended to be on the negative side of things, like look at this politician, what they're doing wrong, or the CEO, what they're doing wrong. And I thought, there are people out there like our nurses, like those people that are our unsung heroes that we don't see because we do what we see, right? And I said our youth and our generations of today, tomorrow, need to see greater role models that leadership isn't about P&L. Leadership is about our actions and choices, and kindness and empathy and courage, these things. And people were saying to me, no, I just don't see it. Like, I just don't see why you're championing this. And I thought, what's going on here? Like, this is really important. Like, we need our youth and our sons and daughters and our generations of today, tomorrow, to see great role models like yourself and everyone else out there on the front line. And then after the pandemic hit, everyone was like, oh, yeah, I actually now see why this is really important. I thought, why did it take a pandemic for us to? But it's great that it's going down. Are you seeing that more? So I know this I'm making more about, because obviously this is your space around nursing. Are you seeing more people wanting to be nurses now? Are you seeing a bit of an uplift in people reaching out to go, I actually want to study to be a nurse? Are you seeing that that's becoming more prevalent?
Do you know, I think initially there was great, there's always great regard for the nursing profession. For decades now, in Roy Morgan Gallup polls, we've been voted the most trusted and ethical profession. So there's a huge amount of respect. The community, the public, consumers know what we do. translating that to governments listening to us has been a challenge that I've been tackling. But having said that, so nursing never usually had any issues with numbers of undergraduate places in the TAFEs or the universities of people wanting to be nurses. But in fact, the deans of the universities are telling me this year and a little bit last year, they've seen decreased numbers, and for the first time in decades. And really the worry for us, and what I advise governments and basically anyone who'll listen, is if we don't do something now with our pipeline, we've got a shortage of nurses. The world has a shortage of nurses. It's a female-dominated profession. There's gender equity issues. There's gender bias. There's all sorts of disparity within that. But if we're not retaining and valuing the nurses we have, and we've got less nurses going into university, we're not only got an issue now, but in 3 years and 5 years, and we're not going to be producing the nursing workforce that the country needs. So we really are right now in 2022 to 2025 at a time where we need major reform to really attract the right people. So the other thing that I would say, Sonia, when I talk to governments and they're saying, oh, we'll give a $5,000 bonus, or we'll do this, or we'll do that. Yeah, that's all great. But for me, I don't want anyone to be a nurse. That's one of the things that probably sounds funny for me, being the CEO of the Australian College of Nursing and the foundation. But nursing is not a transactional job. It's not a turn up, I'll get paid, I've got security. Who is a nurse? Why do we choose to be nurses? And, it really is around your life of service. You want to help people when they're vulnerable. You're going to be in situations that are confronting, but it's all about that giving. And so really, for a person to experience excellent nursing care, it has to be the right person. So we need to attract the best of the best. And that's the worry for me, is we need the best, the brightest, the strongest, and the kindest. And they've got other options. And so it's really important that we get it right for the image of nursing to attract the right people.
I think it's so great to hear that you're going down that path, because I think that is critical, right? And it needs to start at school. This is where, because it's that legacy, right? It's that being a nurse and being someone of service, what a great career. And for anyone that's watching out there, parents or anyone that's thinking of where they're going in your career, please think about this if you feel that really resonates what Kylie's saying, because it's a great, wonderful profession to be in. And it was interesting, just going back to what you were saying before, I'm going to talk about women and leadership and things. Like, you're a CEO today, and we need to see more women.
Yeah.
As CEOs, I'm very passionate about this.
Yeah.
I never thought I would be where I am today as well, and it's about courage. And
yeah.
I think that we need more women to be courageous. We need more women. I'm not saying it's just like men as well, like any gender, to help women at the table. And I don't know if you noticed at the awards when we took a photo of all the winners. There were 16 winners, and 14 of them were 14 of them were women and 2 were men. Unfortunately, the 2 men weren't able to attend the awards. But seeing the 14 women on that stage, wow, how wonderful was that?
Wasn't that a powerful moment? And I know that the men that weren't able to be there, because I could see their comments on social media, I think, unfortunately, sometimes in your jobs you can't be there. But, you're changing the game. You really, because you didn't, you recognised women in general categories. And that was one of the things when I was on stage seeing that, when everyone came up with me, there, you had students, you had executives, you had CEO, but you had categories that were binary and non-binary. It wasn't a gendered criteria that I was aware of. But to see that strong representation, I mean, imagine being a girl. Imagine growing up seeing that on stage. Well, what examples did we have in that same way of formidable, powerful, fierce women claiming their space, whether it be construction or like all of those different industries. I just loved it. It was a really proud moment, really honourable to be part of that.
Oh, look, it was, I'm so pleased that you felt that, because thank goodness I wasn't a judge. Well, no one in our organisation was a judge. We had the most remarkable leaders who were judges. And so when we were getting when we sent out the judging packs, because we had 60% we had 100 finalists, 60% of them were women, 40% of them were men. And when we got the scoring and the comments and everything back, the team and I went, oh, okay. Like, so I was like, thank goodness, I didn't judge because it was too challenging. But seeing that they had and they weren't talking to each other, it was completely, that was through what they felt, reading the submissions, and that I know they put a lot of energy and effort into. And some of them found it very, very challenging. And I said, keep us out of it, because, but seeing the 14 winners, I was like, this is great. Like, we can change the game here. We can make a real difference and be great role models. So looking back on your career, looking back on, like, obviously you being a single parent, and I completely understand the courage that it takes to do that. Yeah. And now you've got 2 remarkable sons, and you just mentioned, am I allowed to say that you're about to be a grandmother?
Yes, you certainly are. I'm a little proud. Yes.
That is so wonderful. I was like, you still look amazing. Like, I'm just like, because I'm sitting there going, how can you be a grandmother? Anyway, so, but looking back, like, what advice, or what has been some of your greatest lessons in your life or career, and what advice would you give to younger self, or anyone that's watching here that's thinking of getting in the industry, or trying to be like, I want to be a CEO, I want to be ahead of the table? I know there's a lot of elements that I just talked about there, but what would you like to start with?
Yeah, there's so many different parts that I could speak to this, but let me start and maybe move backwards. I mean, who I am at 52 is different to 42, 32, 22. And I was pregnant at 22 with my first son. I think the beauty of that is, I don't want to be the same. I don't want to look the same. I want to see how women grow and age and claim their space, that the images that we have maybe of our grandmothers, that like, I'm going to be different. But I think that we're in a world where we can invent ourselves or reinvent the space that has only been delivered in a certain way. As a CEO, it is a lonely job. You got, a 9, 10, 13-headed, bosses in your boards. You're the only one in an organization, and it's always, there's always a sense of who you're competing, because your organization has to perform, whether you're profit or not for profit. You've got to make money for viability. So I think by the time you get to CEO, my sense would be to say to someone, or anyone aspiring, whether I would say this at any stage in management, once you're going into career positions that are responsible for people in a management sense, their pay, their performance development, why do you want it? And I'm always a little bit worried if somebody wants the power that is associated with the position and the ego that goes with that, as opposed to that servant mindset or the sense of really making a difference. So I wouldn't want, I am worried about those people who really aren't looking at themselves, and who, male, female, and non-binary. Anyone who wants these kind of positions because of money or security or power or influence, as opposed to the good that you can do and the difference that you can make. So somebody asked me the other day, do I like being a boss? I'm like, yeah, actually I do, because I'd prefer to have the responsibility, being a strong work ethic, and make a difference for hundreds of lives of the people that work in our organisation. Because I have worked for incompetent people, and it's much harder being held back, or, where you can see logic, you can see an organisation that needs to move forward and the wrong person's employed in it. So to be a CEO, it comes with, obviously legal responsibility, but it's that moral and ethical responsibility of the kind of culture of the workplace that you create, the opportunities that you give. And do you have the generosity of spirit to create and invest the extra hours that it takes to build that culture? We've probably all worked for people who want to keep us here, and take credit or go forward. Hopefully you haven't, but if you have, so who do you want to be, and understand that? And then in the steps to get there, sure, you might need masters or qualifications or education. That's only one component. So I would say to anyone, and I've coached and mentored hundreds and hundreds of people through my career, you need to work on your own stuff so that you're not triggered. You need to know where your blind spots are. Not everybody's got everything, but you need to release inner child things. Don't hold on to things, because until we work on ourselves, we really don't have it to give other people. And I think that the most competitive people, or the people that limit other people, are really, hurt people hurt, basically. So for me, if you want to be a CEO, sure, you've got to be tough, you've got to be strong, you've got to be smart, but how can you be kind, and how can you make sure that everybody that is employed or in relation to the responsibility of the organisation you're looking after gets to flourish and be challenged and feel good about themselves and what they do? And that's not on the bottom line. It's not on the profit and loss sheet. And, it's not soft anymore. But to me, that's the real essence of being in a position of influence.
I love that. It is. It's I'm the same. When I hear people talk about they want to climb the ladder because they feel as though the title is going to make them feel like powerful, I go,
validate them. Yeah.
I go, it's not about that. That worries me, because leadership's an incredible responsibility. Like you are impacting businesses and lives of people, and there's such great responsibility there. Obviously, I mean, and people think and then they move into these leadership roles per se, like traditional leadership roles, and they think it's going to be easy. And I'm thinking, it's the toughest job you'll love, like parenting, right? It's not, and this is why learning leadership, preparing your leadership, getting to understand who you are, really going, how can I be my best version of myself? So when if I am going to move into those C-suite roles, it is a great responsibility, and I am there to serve others. And I think that's so. What advice would you give to your younger self? Like, if you could go back in time in a time machine, what would you say to her?
Yeah, and I'll tell you that in just a second. I'll just go back to what you were saying there, because I think it's really important. So I think one of the things, or I say it to my younger self, but I don't need to, because I've always believed this. I think it's really important that we know who we are without our titles. And I think men struggled with this when they retired, because their identity was tied to their position and where they'd got to, and self-esteem. And so they've got their own gendered issues. But I think for women have done that in different ways. But so I would say to any person who are you without your title? So I am very, very strong in my core and my sense of self and my sense of worth. And so I'm honoured to be an adjunct professor, but I know who Kylie is without that. I'm honoured to be a CEO. I'm honoured to be a board director, all those things. But when you introduced me and those words on my LinkedIn title, to be a humanitarian, to be a mother, to be someone who is known to transform organisations and individuals, they're things that aren't tied to an organisation. That's who I am. So I would say to anybody listening, who are you? Or, write who am I with that question mark, and start to and how do you, so I will always know when people introduce themselves, if they need to kind of title themselves up, where their sense of worth is. But, Sonia, you and I know that the most important job that I have ever done and will ever do is be a mother. So Kylie as a mother is very fiercely protective, and that is the gift that I give to the generations that I'll never see. Unfortunately, society still doesn't respect that job that we do, but I know how important it is to me, along with everything else that I do. So I definitely think that there's some of the things that are good to have check-ins with ourselves, to say, am I authentically true to who I am, or, where's my ego in this? And do I need these titles to validate who I am? And so I think that's a healthy kind of, how do you actually check in? Because as a CEO, you're not going to, you can say to people, tell me what you think, but we all know that could be a career limiting move. So how do you get your own sense of balance of where you're at? Now, what would I say to my younger self? I mean, my goodness, she has, I've got a PhD in adversity in the School of Hard Knocks. I reckon I've graduated from the School of Hard Knocks. I think because my personal motto is dare to be different. And I've claimed that, but I think because I was different and because I challenged, I mean, I have absolutely really, been knocked around, been criticized, been ostracized. I've had moments of feeling intensely lonely or questioning myself. And they were probably in the younger days when I was, really, I felt like the intellectual side of me needed to outweigh the heart side of me or my instinct. And I suppose my instinct was trying to say this is the right thing to do, even if I didn't have the skills quite to do it. But when you do learn your values. I've probably learned my values by the process of elimination in the way that I didn't like to get treated or what didn't feel right, as opposed to being able to say, here are 3 or 5 that I could just come up with. I think that what I would say to my younger self is definitely, and I feel like RuPaul on stage talking to the queens at the final. What would you say to this little person? So I love this moment. But I think I would say, take a breath. You'll be okay. Trust yourself.
Yeah.
Trust yourself. Learn the skills of influence. But your moral compass is strong, and stay true to your north. And don't let your self-esteem be so affected by people that didn't align to where you go. Like find your tribe, find an organization or a team that respects you. Don't stay where you're getting beaten up. It's not an endurance contest in that sense. If sometimes you just end up in a job where everybody's different. It took me years later to realize, oh my gosh, I'm glad I didn't fit in. What would that have done to patient care if I would have compromised my values like I felt they did? But at the time, you feel like, how am I the only one that doesn't kind of get this? So dare to be different, but work on the inside out so that you're whole. You're not a soft-centered, chocolate. You're hard-centered and full.
And also, like, dare to be different and embrace what makes you different and unique, right? Because it'll serve you so well. And someone has actually asked a question here before. They've actually asked a question which I thought is very interesting and a really interesting question. But before I go into this, you were mentioning about the most important roles being a mum, and which is so true, because even when we do our coaching, our leadership workshops and programs, people think it's about that we're coaching and inspiring them or giving them skills and the confidence to be a great leader at work. I'm like, no, this is about you being a great leader in all the roles. And
absolutely,
yes, yeah.
My baby, Alistair, he will say, Mum, you parent like your CEO. And I'm like, I'm going to take that as a compliment. But he says, you're firm, you have high expectations, you'll invest. But I actually see that is who I am. I don't just see this as a job description. So I do embrace the essence of me, whether that's, I'll take it as a compliment.
Well, I take it as a compliment. My daughter says the same thing to me. And that's why, like, even at the awards, you saw my daughter on stage. Yes. A few people go, why have you got your, she's now a young adult, and I've always had her involved in my, and I'm like, because she's like my greatest, like she's my greatest, I don't know, achievement. Like, I'm so proud of who she is as a leader, and I want her to be part of. Because I'm a mum. That's what I am. First and foremost, I'm a mum.
A human. Why wouldn't you want her in everything? I completely understand. And my sons, well, being a single mum and not being able to afford babysitting or childcare, they came everywhere with me. But I remember those days when they were on stage helping me hand things out for nursing and midwifery awards, or sitting next to me. The role modeling of that is, we can't even understand that, Sonia, because my mum didn't have the same rights to education. She, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, we come from bloodlines that have not had the same privilege to be educated, to acquire wealth, to, even legally be able to achieve what we achieve. And so I feel like we're really the generation that's resetting. I feel like in a lot of ways we need to be the chain breakers. And I often say I do things for my nieces and your daughters because I fight so strongly for women. But that's so it's just beautiful for me to see that a daughter gets a role model as a mum. Imagine what the next generations are going to be able to achieve because we haven't had the representation and the examples in the same way.
Yeah, I agree. I love that. The change. Did you say the change breakers? I like that.
Chain breakers. Yeah, we're going to break those chains that have held us back. Yes.
Okay, we could do that. Well, Phil's just asked a question here. Phil's done this because he's loving what you're saying, but he said, when you say, and I can't remember you saying these exact words, but maybe we can explore this. He said, when society does not respect the kind of job you do, where does this derive from? Do you know?
Yeah, thank you, Phil. I think that somewhere in my fabric, is that I'll come back. Sure, I'm a registered nurse. I've got all those kind of qualifications you acquire. But who is Kylie? And really, at my core, is that strong humanitarian, that strong sense of equality and justice. So I am just someone. Honestly, I could be invited to a function where nobody knows me. If I see someone left out or somebody I can't help but want to help somebody. It's just in my nature. So I think that it really comes from that strong sense of it's our birthright to be seen. It's our birthright to feel purposeful. It's our birthright to experience equality, even though billions around the world don't. And so I'll give you an example. And it's interesting the criticism I got for this, but nursing, because we're around 90% female dominated, I've been championing with our brilliant men in nursing about gender inequality for nursing. Like, why aren't we 50-50? Why don't more men want to be nursing, to do nursing? And so I teamed up with some brilliant men in nursing and put a campaign out. And Luke Yokota, came up with the hashtag, "It's okay for men to care." So we've been really challenging that society that doesn't allow boys and men to go into jobs that care. And for the nurses, the men that are nurses, I mean, they really represent such brilliant human beings because often they get their gender, their masculinity and their sexuality questioned because they want to be a nurse. But if you're a paramedic or a doctor, working in the same industry, you wouldn't. So I would say to people, if your little 5-year-old, niece or nephew came up to you and said, I want to be a nurse, do we respond differently to a little girl, to a little boy? And obviously I'm very conscious of non-binary people, but just talking about even in our own unconscious bias, what are our thoughts about men going into nursing? Now, Cyprus and other countries, it's 50-50. So what's happened in the fabric of Australia where we're so gendered that the word nursing is so intricately should be a female profession? But I've been criticized on social media for championing men. They're like, "Kylie, why champion men?" I'm like, oh my gosh, I spend most of my life championing women, but I want equality for everyone. So it fascinates me, and it's a great question.
Well, a few people are like, a lot of people are like, yep, thumbs up, thumbs up. Like, I think that's so important. It's the same with like childcare workers and things like that. Like, why, we need to change the lens around, again, whatever gender. If you've got a passion to be a nurse or a teacher or a childcare worker or just go and do it. It's like, obviously similar in the I'm from the human resources space. Again, it tends to be predominantly women in human resources. So why are we need to change that, right? I think that, look, I know we're running out of time because I've taken way much more time than I expected. I'm so sorry. I could talk to you for hours upon hours around this. I do have other people asking questions and I'm like, I'm so sorry. Feels just go. I love and always express in the most sincere and genuine way as possible the incredible hard work nurses do for making our world better and more beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. But look, thanks. Well, that's actually a really good question. He's just wondering, like, I wonder if it is coming from your own personal experiences. Look, I think yeah, look, unfortunately, we won't be able to get in that. If you want to reach out to Kylie, anyone here's got some questions, please reach out to Kylie. I think it's always really interesting when we're having these conversations, and even like when I speak about leadership or write about leadership, right? Obviously, you're going to get it through your own experiences, your own perceptions of things.
Yeah.
Hence, I'm a single parent, and hence my perceptions and experiences being a full-time. If you haven't been a single parent before, it's really challenging not to understand what it's like, other than the fact you can have empathy for the person and go, I don't know what it's like to be a nurse or be a single parent or be in whatever different hats and roles we play. But all we can do is keep practicing empathy and kindness and compassion, and have the courage that if we have a passion around changing the space around these certain things, let's keep championing that. So I feel that's really great. If you want to ask Kylie, make sure you email her. She's on LinkedIn. I also wanted to say Kylie espouses kindness and courage. She gave me this incredible gift and letter. She gave me the most beautiful gift and letter after the awards. It made me cry. Oh gosh, no, Phil, don't apologize. He's actually going, I respect, but I'm like, oh my gosh, no. My pleasure, Phil. All I'm saying is I feel bad that I've taken so much of Kylie's time, and I think we could actually keep talking about this.
Oh, we could talk for hours, Sonia. And I obviously can't see Phil's question or any of the questions, but from what I can hear, I mean, we are all, we're all in earth bodies. We're in an earthly experience. We all have differences, and I don't think anyone gets to adulthood without experiencing some sort of pain or, something that they feel like, holds them back in some ways. So our experiences will be unique to us. And we will all be different, but I think fundamentally there's more similarities. There's more things that bind us as humans. When I look at, pain in any, if I look at faces around the world in pain or joy, or the expressions are the same, I think we all basically fundamentally want the same. But what I would say is, as you go through experiences, so that you're not defined by them, one of the things that I would say is I let the experiences shape me, but not define me and not hold me back. So how can you rise above those? So as somebody who's been in a marriage of domestic violence, I don't want to stay there. Okay, it did affect me, it does, but who am I moving on from that? And there'll be lots of different kinds of people with different stories and experiences. So my sense for me is, and I don't know if this is going to help you, Phil, I always say to myself, what am I doing, or what can I do that honors my highest good, that honors my purpose here? How can I now, at 52, with my sons are, to my greatest teachers, the next generation of Bambinos are coming, but I want to use all of my experiences. Some of it's academic and intellectual, but a lot of it's personal, and how I've evolved and challenged myself to grow and develop. I want to really make the world a better place, whether that's 5 people, 500, 5,000, like whatever influence that I can have and I can make. I have a platform for the nursing profession, but, everybody knows a nurse. If I can make a difference through my platform for the nursing profession, I'll help humanity. If every nurse feels good, and we teach that to our patients and our families, and, it just sort of spreads in that way. So I would say we're all going to have our stories. We're all going to have differences. Always bring diversity and difference to the table, because we can't represent every voice. And then I always find the uniqueness, like the similarities that bind us, and build from there. I don't care how many people are in the room with different opinions. There's got to be something where we start as a platform to take off, to be purpose-driven, to really make that difference together, and then bring all the challenges of the uniqueness of individuals and their opinions along the way.
And it's about that, embracing that diversity and embracing that we all have a role to play, whether we are a mother or a parent, or mother, father, whatever role we play, as a nurse, as a childcare worker, as a frontline worker, as someone helping us at the local supermarket. We can all show compassion, respect, and kindness, regardless of, like, we have to together. And I think that's one thing, that's like even with the awards thing, everyone in that room, we had all these different people and all these different races,
Oh my gosh, yes.
cultures, and ages, and everyone and seeing everyone in the room going, you know what, we're here because we all want to champion something that's greater and better for purpose. That's great that you find that's what it's about. So Phil, thank you so much for those questions. Thank you. He's written here, thank you for being you and being an incredible inspiration onto others. Bless you, Kylie, you're amazing. So that's so great. Thank you. She is amazing.
Fills my heart. Yeah.
She's amazing. So thank you so much for today. Thank you for saying that you're going to be a judge in our 2023 awards. She's like, oh no, she's put it out there now. I have to have it. No, thank you for being a judge.
I'm honoured.
Because they're going to be in Melbourne next year, so make sure the nominations open only in a couple of weeks. We've already got heaps of people that have written to us to say, when are they going to be open? I think we've had about 40 people register to nominate. So, but thank you. And is there any final question? Is there anything we can do to help you? For anyone that's listening or us here, is there anything we can do to help you? Are you there?
Oh, is that to me?
Yes, to you. Like, is there anything I can do to help you? No, that's right. I was asking you, is there anything we can do to help you?
Oh my gosh, I'm thinking, hang on, you're waiting for people to come through. Oh my gosh. I mean, you know, one of the things that, thank you for the offer, and I absolutely appreciate it. And I cannot think of anything, but just sharing space together and reminding me that people like us, you know, that sense of community already fills my heart. But I was thinking when you were talking, I didn't, you know, I do my job, and I'll take the word just out there, but I do my job and I do what I think is right. Did I think that I would be Outstanding Leader of the Year award winner? Like, no. And so what I would say, Sonia, is if you know, I don't know who nominated me, but if you know someone who's doing something, and you know, in my world, we always work hard in nursing and health. So to get this kind of awareness and receive an award like this is just so humbling and so fulfilling. But I would just, I would encourage people to put people forward, because there's so many people doing incredible stuff. And I think that the more the diversity of different kinds of people, that's why in the thank you letter that I said, I thank you for recognizing nurses. Like, I just felt so humbled, because, you know, there's 2 other nurses I was even more proud of to see them on the stage. And I think that there'll be other people that deserve this kind of attention that maybe aren't used to being put forward. So I would say everyone should apply.
Yeah, please not. Like, it is. I know that people kind of think, oh, is it, you know, I don't know if I want to put myself out there. But the thing is, it's about being a role model.
Yeah, put yourself out there.
Yeah, be proud of your achievements. Think about how great, looking back when you're 100, looking back and going, wow, what an amazing experience to be. It's those moments where we can all leave a legacy. So leadership is about helping others be more, do more, and achieve more. So please nominate yourself or nominate others like Kylie. And plus, there's an awesome lolly bar.
I'm going to be a grandmother next February, and I'm going to be able to tell my little, you know, grandchild, your grandma was the Outstanding Leader. I mean, hello, role modeling already. Yeah. No, it's so that's where when I was thinking as I was listening to you, is really, I wouldn't have thought this was me. I would have thought, oh, those people that got that award, how wonderful. And I've had a very special year, but I think that the sun shines on all of us evenly. We all deserve our chance to shine. And so there'll be somebody around each of your listeners that, you know, should be shining. I've got no doubt.
I think so too. So thank you for being so remarkable. Thank you for being an outstanding leader, and thank you for being an inspiration and a role model for us. So thank you for being on the live today, and we can't wait to see where your journey goes now.
Yeah, this is the start of a friendship and a connection. I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. You take care.
You too.
Take care. Bye. Bye.